Good night, good night. How you been doing tonight? God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma J. Spirits Around. I'm here to get part two of Joseph, still talking about Joseph. Okay, now we gonna talk about Pharaoh's dream. Now God had told Joseph he will be in charge and that he will be a king. And God, we're gonna see how God gonna come through for Joseph. So Genesis chapter 4, 41, 1. Now, Joseph in prison. Remember what I love for fact. Joseph in prison. And now 2 full years in the past. Pharaoh have a dream. Pharaoh had troubling dreams. And as seen by the king of Egypt. Now both dreams involve a group of 7. So now he have a dream. Now see, this is God is coming in place. Putting a dream in Joseph. It said in Pharaoh about a job that nobody is not going to be able to fulfill but Joseph. And this God way and getting Joseph that promised Joseph that job. That he gonna be over the whole nation. That he gonna be a king. And now we about to see it about to come to pass. God's word about to be fulfilled. Now his mind was troubled. Now he sent, because see, sometimes God give you a dream, because a lot of time I wake up, what this mean? Why? It'll be silly. But guess what? The dreams always mean something. Once the meaning come together, it don't be silly. It always comes together. Now his mind was troubling. Now he sent all the magician, to wise men of Egypt. Now these supposed to be wise. The magicians supposed to be wise. They're supposed to interpret dreams and all this kind of stuff. But God fixed it that way. God ain't gonna allow them to interpret that dream. They're gonna have to get this. This is God's way to get Joseph out of jail. Gonna get Joseph out of prison, and nobody but him and fulfill. Because God fulfill our gifts. And if God don't want to fulfill nothing to us, He's not gonna fulfill. Because see, we don't have our own power. The power just like us psychic. If we trying to reveal something, we can't do it on our own. It have to be God, the Holy Spirit, or Jesus, or it have to be any one of them to fulfill our goal that we trying to predict in our life as psychic. And so magician, God didn't let theirs come through. God want nobody but Joseph. He want them to go get Joseph out of that pit and let him predict this dream. And so the magician wise men of Egypt, Pharaoh had told them his dream, but no one could interpret that dream. God didn't let it come fulfill. God the one interpret our dream. God allowed them, but God didn't allow them to interpret a dream. God want nobody but Joseph to do this here. Now he called the magician, and wise, they're supposed to be wise. Men was common in the palace. The incense rulers. Now their job description was included studying and scholar art and science, reading stars and interpret dreams. They're supposed to interpret dreams, but God blocked that. Predicting the future and performing magic. Now they had power and they were unable to interpret Pharaoh's dream. We don't have power with our gifts. The power only work if God allowed it to work. In the spirit, the Holy Spirit and all that don't work until God given authority for them to show us stuff. And so they say he had power and nothing was working, And so the chief baker, now he was in prison with Joseph. And it was him and another person in prison and had a dream the same night. Now Joseph interpreted dreams and told the meaning and everything else with these dreams. Now, so the chief priest is telling Pharaoh. See, the magician, they could not interpret a dream. So the chief baker had telling him, well, I know somebody I was in prison with somebody, and me and another person had a dream, and he interpreted this Hebrew guy, and so he telling Pharaoh that he experienced him, and someone else, had a dream the same night, and Joseph interpreted a dream, and so Pharaoh had sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon, and he shaved his hair. He a good looking man, and he wants to look good before Pharaoh. So he started shaving and changing his clothes, and he came before Pharaoh. Because Pharaoh said, "Go get him out of prison." This dream here troubling me. It's troubling me. And they can't interpret his dream. Now, if you experience him interpreting his dream and give you a meaning, I need to see him. And so Joseph big opportunity came, and Joseph brought quickly from the dungeon and pushed in front of Pharaoh. You see how God worked? See, God work quickly, and see, God work all of a sudden. You don't know when God gonna work. Joseph spent all them years. He spent 2 years up in there. But all of a sudden, it was sudden. And that's when, see, God will think out of the blue. Okay, it's time for me to put this dream up in Pharaoh. It's time for them to just get Joseph out of that prison, because he gonna be the only one can interpret his dream. He gonna be the only one can do this job. So Pharaoh had told Joseph his dream. Now it was 2 dreams. I ain't give all the insight why he was troubled, because it was so kind of, things was coming on out and all that, but he had 2 forms of dreams, dealing with 7, so it's gonna be 7 abundance. It's gonna be drought. But the first 7 years gonna be abundance. He gonna need somebody to know how to calculate and do bookkeeping and all this kind of stuff. And nobody ain't gonna be able to do that but Joseph, because Joseph gave him instruction how to run this land. You're gonna have all this shit going on. Because Joseph telling her about his dream and telling him how to run it. Okay, you're gonna have 7 years of abundance. So you got to have somebody to calculate, let them have some. You got to put some up. You got to do the bookkeeping. And so he telling them all this here. And he said, you got to know how to save and give. Because you right behind it, you're going to have 7 years of drought. And so you got to stress that, so abundance in Egypt will be forgotten. Now the famine will re-raise the land. Now God put a dream in Pharaoh. 2 forms is that the matter had been formally decided by God. That's what I say. It formed by God. And God would do it soon. See, this part of God's plan. Part of God's plan to get it started. Jacob's seed is the one it's going to produce as a nation. And see what it is. He got to have this. See, he been trying to get Jacob out of that land, and he been supposed to get this plan started. So what God have to do? He have to have a drought come. That's the only way to get Jacob out of that land. Because see, Jacob don't want to move. He have that drought. He ain't going to have no other choice to get out that land, because he want him in Egypt. He need him to bring all his 10 children, but the 10 children going to multiply even before they get to Egypt. They're going to have their wife and children. What is 10 children before they get to Egypt? They're going to have about 75. So they multiply. They're going to multiply before they even get to Egypt. And so God decided, it was decided by God, and he would do it real soon. He talking about the famine. God would do the famine real soon, because that's the way to get Jacob out of that land. He been told Jacob get out that land and start his plan. So that's why he had to come with part two and put a gift in Joseph so he can easily put dreams in Joseph to get this started. So they should call, they should collect. Now he giving instruction which they're supposed to do in this land. They should collect all the food of these good years. Gonna have 7 abundance. And they'll come in and store up the grains under the authority of Pharaoh. To be kept in the city for food. So you got you need somebody smart who gonna know how to calculate and subtract. You got 7 years of abundance. You got to know how to give some. You got to know how to stash some, hide some. And so Joseph is instructing Pharaoh of Egypt of how to run the nation when this come about. Because you got to store, some. You got to give out some, because you're going to have family right behind it. So you got to know how to have somebody stretch this here abundance. And so the plan seemed too good for Pharaoh to all his officials. He said the plan sounded too good. He said it sounded too good. The plan seemed too good for Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh had asked them, can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? Now, he got the man standing right in front of him. Now, he going to ask, if we can find somebody like you, to run this here. You explaining this to me, but I don't understand what you explain. I need somebody to run this here just like you. You got the Spirit of God on you. And so Pharaoh had recognized Joseph's connection with God. And sometimes people can recognize your connection with God. And so God made sure Joseph, was the only one to interpret Pharaoh's dream. Also may serve nobody but Joseph will fill that position. God had told Joseph, you're going to be in charge. He didn't know what he didn't know. See, sometimes we can't figure God out. We don't understand what he be saying all the time. Now, Joseph was 17 years old. What you talking about? What God? I'm gonna be a king over what nation? I'm gonna be in control of what? He didn't understand. Now he gonna start coming to light. The God plan really ain't gonna be into motion until we get Jacob family over to Egypt. And so sure nobody but Joseph will fill this position. And remember, God said he will be in charge and he will be a king. Now God made his promise to come to true. Now he making the dream fulfill. And so then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God had made all this known to you, see, God made it all known to him, because see, like when I had my dream, you interpreting in your dream that you know how to do this here. So God interpreted everything that needs to be done with this family and with the abundance. God instructed in Joseph's dream what to do. And he explained it to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh like, oh, this sounds so good to be true. I can't do this here. We need somebody like you with the Spirit of God on you. You know anybody? He looking at the person and he gonna ask him if he know anybody. Now, there is no one discerning and wise as you. So he know he's smart. He know he connected with God. And he noticed it. So he gave the position to Joseph. He wasn't going to be able to find nobody. God was going to make sure he ain't found nobody to do it. Now, Joseph rose quickly. And see, sometimes when God moved quickly. That's what he did with David. David waited a long time. And he prayed to God. And next thing you know, he moved quickly. David was a king. He up there celebrating and everything else. And now Joseph was in prison. God had a way to get him out of prison. Get him out of prison. Nobody but him can interpret the dream. Nobody but him can fulfill this job. And so Joseph quickly went to the top. Quickly. Sometimes God moves fast. You be poor one minute, and then the next thing just like Joseph, he in prison one minute, then next thing he running the whole nation. He a king, running the whole operation, and he was just in prison. That God moved quickly. God moved quickly to the top, from prison walls to Pharaoh palace. Now, he moved from prison wall to Pharaoh palace. Now his training for this important position, involved being first a slave and then a prisoner. So he was sent there as a slave. From a slave, he was in prison. From prison to the palace. And so you should be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your order. Only with the respect to the throne will I be greater than. So he's not giving up his throne. He's not giving his authority. But what he told Joseph, all my people will respect you. See, all my people will have to go to you before they come to me. And so that's what he's telling. And Pharaoh has said, all have to obey Joseph. Now Pharaoh, had to continue holding on to his throne, and his authority, and trust Joseph's command over everything else. He trusts Joseph. Even though he put him in prison, he probably know his wife lied, but his wife gonna come first to him at all times. But he trusts Joseph. So now we get into Joseph's brother. And remember at the beginning, I had to say about Joseph told him about his dream. And the dream, the sleeves had came around him, and by down. Also, he had a second dream that the stars that came around and bowed down, in respect to him. And so what the brother said, you think you're going to be over us? You think we're going to bow down to you? But we about to see who going to bow down, soon as they see Joseph. Genesis 42:5. Now his brother hasn't seen Joseph, in years since they throw him in a pit. Now remember, they said they will not bow down, but when they visit, they will see if they're going to bow down. Now his brother lived in Canaan. And his dad, Jacob, they're famine in their land. That's why I said God wants the famine to start in Canaan, because he needs Jacob to get out of there. Jacob laid down there in Canaan till he got old. Now God got to send a famine, because I need Jacob. I've been told Jacob to get out of there. Now this is the only way I can get Jacob out of that land. Famine in his land now. Now the brothers came to buy grain, among those who came, and for his family was to in the land of Canaan. Jacob tell his sons to go to Egypt and prevent starvation. So he rather him to have starvation, but he don't want his kids. We always gonna put our kids first. Now he said, y'all go get some food, and he gonna keep his youngest brother, because he think he lost Joseph. He mourned for Joseph for so many years. He still think Joseph dead. And so now Joseph was a governor of the land, and a person who sold grain to all his people. So when Joseph's brother arrived, they bowed down. And when they arrived, and they saw Joseph, which they don't recognize Joseph, but when they see him, the first thing they done, bow down. They bow down to him, their faces down to the ground. Now Joseph's own brothers were the very one who sold him into slavery, come before him to buy food. The same people that throw him in a pit, the same people, that sold him had to come to him and bow down and ask for some food. And see, that's how God will do sometimes. He'll make them your footstool. The same people that jealous and hated him, throw him in a pit and then sold him, the same people had to come to him and beg him for food. Bow down and beg him for food. And so they bow down, they bow low, because when they, we never bow down to him. That's what their statement. Oh, I mean, never gonna bow down to him, but they bow down. The same one throw him in a pit had to give him respect. You remember, they didn't want to give him respect. They didn't want to hear nothing he had to say. You get from by us, dreamer boy. And they hated him the more because he had a gift that he can interpret dreams, and he also Father loved him more than them. And so they hated him, and so as soon as Joseph, had saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger. Now, they didn't recognize him, but he recognized them. That's somehow Joseph, been in there for like 20-something years, and but he's different to his brothers. They don't even know who he is. All they know, he was a little boy dreaming all the time. Now he's a young man, a king, got some clothes on, and they don't know their own brother. They cannot recognize their own brother, And so he pretend to be like a stranger since they don't recognize him. And spoke harshly, to them. Where do you come from? He know where they live at. He trying to mess with them. Where you come from? They said Canada, land. Now and they asked him about his dad, and they asked him about his youngest brother, and they still didn't catch on. How you know I had a younger brother? They ain't even asked the question how he knew he had a youngest brother. So we see that Joseph recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. And so then, see, I told you, he was young when God be putting all them dreams. He didn't know what them dreams meant, But now, when he saw the brothers bow down to him, now he remembered his dream about them and said to them, "You are spies." I remember in his dreams, I think some about in his dream was spies. So he acting like a stranger and talking about this. They come to spy on their land. So now Joseph remember his dream, and they come to him asking for food. Now years have passed, but God's word is about to be fulfilled. Now God had put his plan in Joseph's dream, that he will be in charge and king years in the past, but God's word still stands. So when he told his brother his dream, that he will be in charge, that they will bow down to him, and they said, "Oh no, we will never bow down." And when they saw Joseph, they bowed down. They didn't recognize Joseph, but they bowed down. Now, to get to God's plan, he had to go through something. To get to God's plan, he had to go through something, and you be like, is we there yet? You got to go through something. You got to climb mountains before you get to God's plan. Now, Joseph went through something to get to what God needed him to be at. First the brothers were jealous and they threw him in a pit. Then he was sold, and then he was able to be in Egypt, the land where God needed him to be at. And so the master wife lied on him and had him thrown in prison. Now he went through all this here, to get the plan started. And the plan ain't gonna get started and be put in motion until Jacob and his family get there, because his family gonna be the one. It's gonna be the nation, And so finally, his dream coming to pass, that he in charge. because God told him you're going to be in charge of nations, you're going to be king. He didn't know what God was talking about, but now he see, his dreams starting to come to pass, and his brothers did bow down. When they say, we're not going to bow down to you, you're not going to be over us. You're our little brother. A lot of time, the youngest one, could be a lawyers or doctors and all that. And then you be thinking you supposed to be in a high position because you're the oldest. A lot of time, the younger brothers be doctors and lawyers and teachers and everything else. So I give y'all a whole story of Joseph, that God place his plan in Joseph, and he had to go through the process. That's why I give y'all everything. He went through the process, thrown in a pit, being saved, being sold, and being lied on, being put in prison, and then stuff start coming into place, because sometimes you got to deal with the roughness first, and before everything starts smoothing out. So he went through the rough stuff. And then God said, it's about time for him to come out of prison. They had to get him out of prison, and see, God had moved quickly, got him from out of prison to in the palace, being in charge over the whole nation, being a king. That moved quickly. So everything started running smooth for him, because everything just being shambled, crooked road and everything else. You got to go through the ups and downs, and before it starts smoothing out, and once he got out of prison, that was it. He in charge, just like God said he was, and so God always, he'll have a purpose for your life, but he also allow you to be prosperous and live your life and be successful. At the same time, you walk in your path. And so also a motivated speaker, you can schedule Bible study. I love reading my Bible. I love studying. I love putting this word out, because see, studying your Bible is the way you get close to God, and about God's word and how everything, about his command and everything, how he wants you to abide by his command. Now, spiritual healer and booking, you can book a reading, also missing divine. If you have in a lost one, you send a picture and their name on my TikTok account. That's all I have for you tonight. I had to break it down, that we had to go through some rough times, obstacles, rejection. You had to go through all that. I had to show y'all how the rough time that Joseph had to go through, to get on the land where God wanted him at. And then he still had to deal with obstacles, until, God got him out that prison, give him his job, being a king, but he had to go through that rough time, being lied on, rejected, and thrown in prison, thrown in the pit, being sold. He had to go through all this here until he get to the smooth part, and where, he was able to get a family and everything else. They name his change the name to Egyptian name. So since he was over them and they had to understand him, and so everything had worked out fine, and I just want y'all to know, like in me, on my journey, if you on a journey, still going through rough times like me, I just broke it down with Joseph. He went through the same thing. He went through the ups and downs. Imagine you being in prison 2-3 years, and come out quickly. You're in charge. That's how God works. So that's all I have for you tonight. Y'all have a blessed night, and I'll see y'all in the next video.